Now we're speaking over here. 1 second. Let's see if I can watch this. Watch this, what I'm going to do here. You see this? Maybe. All right. Anything is missing over here. Let's see, how do we get this bigger? Nah. All right, we'll have to figure this out. Here we go. And so we gave us this Kabbalistic picture. What's the Rebbe saying? That really this world is concealing real reality. It's concealed real reality. And if you want to call it, the world is mirroring what real reality is. That's what we're learning in the Sikha. Remember, we're learning in the Sikha that the real reality is in the spiritual worlds, and it just comes down into physical. We just don't see the real source of everything. So says the Rebbe, the real reality is really the spiritual worlds, which this is a really good selling point, because, I can just say, you don't know the truth. I know the truth. So here's the spiritual. Well, the fact of the matter is that it's really not so. The fact is that true, the spiritual worlds are the main ones, but the goal of the whole business is to reveal that fact in this physical world. Now, this physical world is not only bad. Bad means it covers over the truth. That's what bad is. Bad is something that covers over the truth. Good is what reveals the truth. What's true? Hashem, the creator. The upper worlds, the spiritual worlds, those are revelations of the creator. You want to call it God's sphirot, his spheres, God's kindness, God's power, God's beauty. Right? You can see little glimpses of that sometimes in the world. Like we talked about, a beautiful sunset, you look at a child's eyes, there's examples of love in this world. You can see it's just something it's just above anything we could possibly create. But those are only like sort of little revelations. And you can take those out of context. You can make them into idolatry. The Greeks, the Romans, they had God of love, God of power. They have got... So our goal is to reveal this whole business down here in the physical world. Okay, now what is revealed now in the physical world? Nothing. What's revealed? You see godliness? Nothing. There's people, geniuses, that write whole books about how there's no God, doesn't exist. All there is this world. Let's try to figure it out. Says the Rebbe, no, it's not so. Our job, in fact, the Jewish people, that's what we're chosen for. We are chosen for the job of making the Creator revealed in the creation. What happens when the Creator is revealed in the creation? We see that the creation is supposed to be here. It's not just accidental. It didn't come from just laws of nature. The nature is supposed to be here. God himself, who creates us also, is creating the whole world. So everything that's here is intentional. And everything that's here is intentional according to laws of above nature, laws of love. Everything is tremendously meaningful, but it has to be done through us. We have to reveal it. That's the job of the Jews. We have to work. Okay, so what did we say? Do you remember what we said before? We said, let's see, maybe I'll get back to this picture over here. Can I get my picture? Let's stop. Share, new share? Nah. Okay, stop share. All right, here we go. So if you remember last time, oh, look at this. Look at this. Here we go. If you remember last time, we had this picture, right?
Yeah, you actually weren't sharing before. You were showing what instead of a picture of your face. You weren't sharing.
What? I don't understand. Yeah, I know, but I want this picture to be here. See this picture?
Okay.
Okay, so if you remember, here is the world. The world is not by accident compared to the moon. This whole mimer is talking about the moon, right? The middle of the month when the moon is full. The Jewish people are compared to the moon because the Jewish people are supposed to reveal God in this world. That's like the full moon. Full moon. As it is right now, what do we have in this world? We have the world, that's the earth. And where is God revealed? In the hidden part, heaven, Gan Eden, heaven. That's where God is revealed. A person dies, he goes to heaven. Everybody goes berserk in this world. Where is Uncle Joe? He's in heaven. Nobody sees him. Nobody knows what's going on over there. That's what's going on in heaven. There are big tzaddikim that they can reveal heaven in this world because it's here. The world is just covering it over, but it's here. We're going to learn in the next paragraph that that's the whole idea of the holy temple. The holy temple is like heaven on earth. We're going to learn about that. Just one moment. Okay, as it is now in this world, right, we don't see any godliness. Nothing. All we have is the 10 utterances or whatever, and we don't see those. World is, at first glance, totally physical. God just put the Jews in this world to get a little bit of a glimpse of what's really going on. The Jews. I mean, just think about it. We have all these non-Jews. Some of them are very spiritual people. Some are very good people and genuine people and hardworking, honest and earnest people. Right? And for some reason, they haven't come to the conclusion that God is creating everything according to the Torah. They can do whatever they can think whatever they want. This is, in fact, the truth. Gan Eden. In Gan Eden, there is a revelation because it's spiritual, so it's connected to this aspect of Yesod. These are the 10 Sfirot. The lowest is called Malchut. Malchut, this is Malchut of Malchut. In Gan Eden is revealed that it's Chabad. That's the upper part of Malchut. Chabad, that's the top part of Malchut, right? Because everything that there is has 10 Sfirot in it. So also this Malchut has 10 Sfirot. Yesod also, everything has 10 Sfirot. The top is connected to the bottom of this, what's above it. So here we have Gan Eden, heaven. What does it receive? It receives from this aspect of Yesod. Yesod, we said before, is Kol B'Shamayim V'Aretz. Remember we said that? Kol, Gematria 50, 50. Kol, Chaf Lamed, Gematria 50, because it receives from the 50th gate of understanding. Right? In other words, this is what shines in Gan Eden. What shines in Gan Eden is Chachma Bin and Das of Hashem. Shines over here in Gan Eden because Gan Eden is connected to Yesod. But we said before, Yesod is called the Sadeh. This is called Eretz. Sadeh means the field. This is called Eretz. A lot of synonyms for the synonyms for the same word, for the same term. Gan Eden is called Gan Eden. This is called the Chabad is revealed there, connected to Yesod. It's also called the field. Yesod. In this world, what do we got? Nothing. That's what we got. We got nothing. There's nothing revealed here. Okay, this is all talking about Atzilut, but forget about that for our purposes. It's not whenever they talk about Sfirot in the books, they're always talking about the world of Atzilut, because that's pure. Everything is pure. That's pure examples of the Sfirot. Okay. When Yesod is revealed to Malchut, then we get Chachma Bin Adat is revealed here. Or, in other words, spiritual revelations that we've got no connection to. We don't know. In heaven, after you die, you get it. Wait, you can wait. It's not, you'll get it. Don't worry about it. Don't hurry. But when Keter is aroused, Keter, the crown, then that pushes the whole entire business, Chachma Bina and Dad, everything, into the earth. Down here to be revealed here. And that's the whole goal. Then there's a full moon. Then the moon is full. then you get the same revelation that was in heaven, you get here. But in order to do that, you have to arouse this thing called Keter. What's Keter? Keter is the inner will of God. That requires self-sacrifice. We'll learn what it requires. Okay, this whole thing is just a Kabbalistic way of explaining how important it is to serve God above understanding, that you can actually reveal in this world Chochmah, Bina, and Dat. What's revealed in Gan Eden? That's the Sadeh, right? You can reveal Keter. When you reveal Keter, it reveals all of this Chochmah, Bina, Dat, and everything down here in the earth. And that's what it means, Melech L'Sadeh Ne'avad. The Melech, which that's this Keter, Melech Elyon, the Sadeh, Gan Eden, when this works, when the tzaddikim work in Gan Eden, when the tzaddikim do their spiritual things, and all the Jewish people are like that. If you live a spiritual life, in other words, everything you see in the world, you connect it, imagine there's a spiritual source to everything. Nothing is here by accident. What does God want me to do with every single thing that I come across? But when you daven, especially when you learn Torah and do mitzvahs, you realize I am doing the will of Hashem. When you put on tefillin, I'm connecting my emotions to Hashem. I'm connecting my mind to Hashem. And it was everything you do, you're like in Gan Eden. You're thinking about the spiritual aspect of it. That's called working in Gan Eden. That's what Adam, the first man, was supposed to do, right? God put him here to work in Gan Eden. It's called working in the spiritual levels. Working in the spiritual levels of yourself, of your own soul. Use this. Okay, now when the Keter, the king, starts working in Gan Eden in the field, then it reveals the whole entire business down here in Malchus. And then that's what's called a full moon. Or in simple English, God is revealed in this physical world. When was that? When did that happen? It happened a couple of times. It happened when Adam was created. Then it says the moon was full. As soon as he sinned, he said he darkened it. Then it happened again when the Torah was given. There was no death. There was just pure life in this physical world. When the Jews worshiped the golden calf, they opted out from this revelation. And it happened in the Holy Temple. Only in the Holy of Holies. In the Holy Temple, there was heaven on earth. And that's what we're going to learn now. Okay, let's go. Let's go back. That was a summary of what we just finished learning. Oh, stop share. That must be over here. 1 second. There's supposed to be this thing over here that says stop share, right?
You're not sharing. That's what I was trying to tell you.
Oh no! You mean all that you didn't?
No.
See
We saw all this that you wanted us to see.
I understand.
It's not a share. That's just the camera.
I get it. Okay, it took me time, but I get it. Now let's see. Here we go. Share screen. There we go. Good. All right. Sorry. Here we are. Okay. Okay. Umover b'maamar, so explained in the Mimor, da'az, then kishemeir malchut, when malchut shines in keter, when there shines in malchut, when in malchut there shines this level of keter, right? That's what I just talked about. When keter shines in malchut, then what happens? Which keter is above the whole chain of creation, above the hishtal shalut. Then what happens? Kaima, there is siora, the moon, bishleimusa, the moon is full. Okay, just like I explained to you. Shemeir, that there shines, or the light of Chachma, Bina, and Dat, also what the revelation that's now in heaven, in Gan Eden, shines in Bechitzoniat Malchut, and the outside of Malchut, right? That's what we said. Let's just have a little look at this. That's what we said. Then there shines, maybe I'll get a little more light on this. Oh. Little by little, getting the kid. Okay, that's what we said. When there shines this aspect of the crown is aroused. In other words, we serve God with all of our will. Crown is will. Then what do we get? We get a revelation of everything in the earth down here. That's what the moon is full. It's called the moon is full. Okay. Then it says the moon, Kaima Sierra, then the moon, Sierra means moon. This is Aramaic. Beshlemus is complete. Shemeir, or there shines light, also gone in Chitzonius Amalchus. And what does it mean, Chitzonius Amalchus? This physical world. That's the Dibur, the Malchus. That's the aspect of God's speech, the 10 utterances that God created the world with. So this is our goal, to make the Creator revealed in the creation. It's like a doctor. What does a doctor do? A doctor just wants the person to be the person, to reveal life in the person. That's all. A person is in a coma. It's like the world without God being revealed here. Everything is there, but it's all spiritual, unconscious. All of a sudden, the doctor comes and he gives him a shot, and all of a sudden, Uncle Joe comes back to life. What happened? Right? Oh, this is the old Uncle Joe we knew. Where have I been? What happened? Where was I? Al Yudezeh, by means of this, Gamba Olam, also in the physical world, everything becomes conscious. That's called also tshuva. Tshuva means like returning to consciousness. Return. That the way things go now, that the world exists according to the order of creation. There's a big difference between the inside of Malchut, which we said that's like heaven, Sadeh, that's the field, and the Chitzoniut Malchut, and that's what's called the earth. Okay, remember, just 1 second. You have to remember, this is all learning off of the sentence, right? The sentence that came from Ecclesiastes. Yitron Eretz Bakal He, Melech L'Sada Ne'avad. The advantage of the earth is in everything, and the king is subservient to the field. Okay, we're changing around the meanings of all these things. That's what Midrash does. That's what the Zohar does, and that's what all the Midrashim do. They take the meaning, the sentence, and show that there's deeper meanings, not just pshat. There's also remeds and drush and sod. And sometimes it means that they have to sort of play with the meanings of the words to reveal deeper meanings, just like everything else in the world. A second. Oh, what did I do here? Oh, there it is. Okay, so again, Yitron Eretz, the advantage, the improvement of the earth, Bakal is Bakal. He is Bakal in everything. What do we say Bakal is? That's Yesod, which is only usually connected to Gan Eden in the heavens. The Melech L'Sada Ne'avad. But the king, we said this is the upper king, this level of Keter. L'Sada comes into the Sada when the Keter is aroused by the king working in Gan Eden, by the tzaddikim working in Gan Eden, right? Zen Ne'avad, that makes the Yisron Oretz. So that makes a better earth comes, and there's the physical world, the outer part of Malchut. This physical world, Yitron, becomes better. Bakol, when the Yesod, when it's connected to the Melech, the Keter, working in the field. When the tzaddikim, that's the level of this Melech. When the tzaddikim, when they work Nevad in the field, which is Gan Eden, in other words, they do their spiritual work in this world, then there's a Yitron or there's an advantage also to Oretz, also to the outside of Malchut. That makes a full moon. Okay, is this understood? I hope so. So that goes back to our picture. The Rebbe wanted to have the picture, this Kabbalistic picture that we had. What the point of it is that it's possible to reveal all the secrets in this physical world. So that's what he says. Then there's revealed it when. That's what it says. Sheyitrona Oretz, that the improvement of the Oretz. What's Oretz? We said that's the external Malchut. Kololot Olam, the whole world, which is created by Dibur Malchut, the external of God's kingship. How does it become improved? By means of Kol. We said Kol is drawing down this aspect of Yesod, Kol b'shamayim v'oretz. And by means of this, by means of drawing this level of Kol, which is usually only in heaven, in Gan Eden, but by working in this world and making it revealed here, by means of this, there's Hamshachat HaMochin drawing down God's understanding in this world, then is revealed revelation of God in the whole world, physical world, just like it is in heaven. And that's what it means, Melech L'Sada Ne'avad. That's what it means, the king in the field, which we said is heaven. When the king, the tzaddikim, work in heaven and draw this level of yesod into this physical world, that's what it says in the Zohar. Man Melech, who is the king? Dam Melech Ilah, this is the upper king. The Yischaber L'Sada, when he's joined to the field, it was when tzaddikim work in the field, in heaven, in the spiritual things, Kad Iu Nevad. Then, they join to the field when the field is worked on. So the tzaddikim, when they work in the field, they join this upper king, which is the level of Keter, al yedei avoda. In other words, by means of the work of the tzaddikim. In Gan Eden, in the spiritual worlds, as they are here, in other words, by being a spiritual person, Sada Ne'avad, you work in the spiritual worlds. You connect everything in the world to God's kindness, God's wisdom, God's severity, everything in the world. You read sometimes the writings of the Rebbe's father and how he connected everything to Kabbalah. Just incredible. They put him in prison, which room he was in. It was the third room, the number of the room. By means of working in this room, in this world, and connecting everything to the Creator, so everything starts to look a little bit like a miracle. By means of this, Nimshach Keter, there's drawn down what's called Keter, the upper king, which is totally above the whole creation, and that's what makes the moon full. Then the world becomes heaven on earth, heaven on earth. Okay, so it's explained in the Mimor, the Az then, Keshemir Malchus, when this Malchus, when there shines in Malchus, this level of Keter, which is above Ishtalshlus, then the moon is full. Shemeir, or this shines, this light of God, also in the external of Malchus, which we said, that's the Dibur, the Esera Mimor is the 10 utterances that God created the world with. And by means of this, it shines also in the physical world. Tamshacha Alpi, Seder Ishtalshlus, that then everything is drawn down according to the order of creation. In other words, godliness becomes revealed in every detail of the creation. Okay, but before that, if it's drawing down into, according to the way God created the world, yes, there's a big difference between the inside of Malchus, which we said is Sada, and the outside of Malchus, which is the Oretz. Lochi, and therefore, when the Shamshach of Malchus is from the eye level of Mochin, therefore, when Malchus is revealed this aspect of Mochin, which that's the idea of what we said, heaven, Gan Eden. Because in this world, we don't get any mocha, we don't get any chachma bin das, any awareness of God. When we get the awareness of God is drawn into the world, then it only shines in the upper world. So Gilehu Rak B'dargas Malchus that receives from Ziran, namely Panemius Malchus. Then it's only in this aspect of Malchut, which is up in heaven. That's the awareness of God. Right? Like I said before, in this world, we don't understand anything. But you can serve God. In heaven, you understand everything, but you can't do anything. But there's total understanding and awareness of the Creator. Amazing, tremendous pleasure in Gan Eden. But you can't do anything. You're not really a sort of a human being up there. But this idea of heaven, it's right now. It's right here. It's everywhere. We just don't see it. The tzaddikim do, and all the Jewish people are potentially tzaddikim. That's what Chassidut is for. When you start to work in this world and think about the upper worlds, then you draw down. B'dargas Malchus, when it's shores in Yivron. I'm sorry. That's. I'm sorry. Right. Then, if there's only you only draw down the spiritual level, then it stays spiritual. But if Malchus is bechinas mochin, okay, but. But the level which is of Malchus, which is the source of the creations, namely the 10 utterances, then there's no revealed light, right? There's no revealed light. If you take the world face value and you serve God accordingly, there's God up there and there's the mitzvahs here, then the world remains the world and God remains God and the spiritual remains spiritual, physical is physical. Then what? Then it's like a levana, the time when it is empty. Sha'or HaShemesh, the light of the sun, shines only on the bottom part of the moon. But when the Hamshacha comes from Keter, which Keter means that we work in this world and we think about the spiritual heaven, right? That we see heaven and everything that there is, then that's which is above Ishtauslu. Then, if we do that, then we draw down godliness from Keter, crown of God. That's called the crown of God, which is above Ishtauslut. Then we can actually cause in the world a revelation of the Creator in the 10 utterances. Now, again, let's stress again, this is for everybody. This is not just talking about big tzaddikim. Essentially what it says is simple English. If you try to see the spiritual in everything, then that will arouse your heart and cause heaven to be revealed in this world. For you and for everybody. God reacts. Don't forget, this is not just a psychological thing. That if you think properly and in this, then you will have these revelations. We're talking about having an effect on God. Al Yadam, also in the world will, actually the whole world, it'll be harder for the non-Jews to do sins. The dogmas, for instance, the sun, the moon, when it's full, in the middle of the month, then the sun, the light of the sun shines also in the bottom part of the moon, and the moon is full. Okay, now he's explained the ideal. We're going to see there's something even higher than this. We're going to see. Why is he explaining this? Because we're talking about Tu B'Av, the middle of the month of Av, when the moon is full. And now the Rebbe just gave an explanation of what is really going on. What is this idea of the moon? The moon is just a physical expression of something amazingly godly, spiritual that's going on. And that is that the moon is like the Jewish people, and the moon is like the whole world. And that if we leave the world as it is, then godliness is revealed only on the other side of the moon. We can't see it. And this world is dark. That's the way that God made the world. The world would be dark, and there's spiritual worlds, there it's light. But if we think about the spiritual worlds here in this world and try to apply it to everything we do, especially the commandments, especially learning Torah, we apply the spiritual, then that can have an effect on this aspect of Keter. We serve God in a totally different way with all of our heart, all of our soul, spiritual. And then it has an effect on the world, and godliness is revealed even, the moon is full. Oh, that's Tu B'Av, right? Wrong. That's the 15th of every month. Tu B'Av is going to be something special. We'll see. Let's go. Tzarech L'havin, we have to understand, L'chior, at first glance, this whole idea of the moon getting smaller, that there's a dark moon. God wanted it to be this way. What do we say the moon is? God's malchut, God's power of creation. God wanted to dim down his light so we could create the world. God purposely dimmed down this malchut. He made the moon dark so that he could create the world. Too much revelation, right? It's like turning the lights on in the movie theater. You can't see any picture. God wanted there to be a world, and he wanted there to be ignorance, and he wanted us to have free will, free choice, to go out of our nature, to defy nature. So therefore, he made nature very strong in order that there could be the creation of the worlds. God wanted there to be this darkness. Because of this, Naaseh, there was made mute, b'chisron, b'malchut. There was made a limitation, a limiting, and a lack in malchut. Like it says, if you look in Nehemiah, it says, Ata asita t'shemaim. We say every day, right? In Vayavorech David is Hashem. Well, David says, if you look in Nehemiah, he said the same thing. King David said it, like 400 or 500 years earlier. And here it says, Ata asita tashamayim. David said it when the ark came back, was taken by the police team. And here, Nehemiah also said, you look, it says, Ata asita tashamayim. We said, you, God, but if you look over there, it says, At with Aleph Tuf. The Hey is missing. At asita tashamayim. God, you, it's pronounced Atah. At is missing the letter Hey. This indicates that the letter Hey, there's not shining any light of Atzilus, which is above the creations. There's not shining any godliness in the world. That's the way God wanted it. He wanted there to be a world. Cave and Gan Eden, since in Gan Eden, in heaven, the spiritual part of creation, there shines this level of kol, which we said that's Yesod. And Yesod, we said, brings mochin. Remember the whole picture that I brought. If so, that's the way God wanted. God wanted there to be a low, a dark place. That's the world. And a revealed place, which is connected to the worlds above it. That's heaven. If so, then nothing is lacking. That's the way God wanted it. That's the reason that Gan Eden, that's the reason that Gan Eden is called Kol. Why is it called Kol? Which means everything. Remember, we learned that Kol b'shamayim v'oretz. L'cha Hashem, ha'gadula v'ha'gavura v'tiferes v'netzach v'ha'id. Ki Kol b'shamayim v'oretz. Kol, that's Yesod. Why is Gan Eden called Kol, which means everything? Ki yesh bo ha'kol. Because everything is in heaven. If so, God created the world. That's the way He wanted it. B'li chisaron. So everything is here, like we learned in the previous Mimor, if you remember, the Mimor of Eicha, it says, Olam b'mala'o nivra. The world was created complete. God said twice, Ki tov, God saw what He made. Ki tov, it's good, it's good. Alpis, according to this, so it comes out that also in Gan Eden, Levana, the heaven, is shlemus. That also in Gan Eden, so the moon, don't say Gan Eden is only half of the picture. Gan Eden, that's the picture. That's the way it's supposed to be. God wanted to be revealed there and to be concealed here. But in the Mimor from the Rebbe Rishab, he says that this whole idea of the moon being full, this is only when the Melech Sada Navad, this is only by means of our service, avodah, when we serve, when we work in this world, thinking about the spiritual, that's what makes the world full. What do we have to work for? The world is complete the way God made it. Leave the world alone. Al Yadei, by means of our avoda, that's what it says, the Rebbe Rishab, by means of our service and changing the world, trying to see through this veneer of concealment that we call the world and see the real meaning behind it, then we can draw down this level of Keter, Melech Elyon, which is above Ishtalshlut. That's what we said before. But why? Why do we have to do it? It says when God created the world was complete. So why do we have to work? So there's the Rebbe, I'll tell you like this. There's complete and there's more complete. Listen to this. We're going to learn three levels. The world is complete, there's more complete, and there's super complete. What's complete? Yesh lo mark, we can say like this. The mitit inyan kaima sira b'shlemusa, that really the whole idea of the moon being full. In other words, God being revealed in this world, this is a completion hu ba'ofen she'en shayach shiach yisron, in a way that there cannot be any lack. Like something like the raising of the dead. What happens when the raising of the dead means there's not going to be any more death. It doesn't mean that people will raise up and they'll get another chance to live. That's like reincarnations, gilgulim. There is such a thing, but that's not what we're after. Real completion is, davka kesham shachi me'or, it has to come from some sort of a light which is above connection to the worlds. She'en shayach botzimtzum. This has to be some sort of revelation of godliness that's before the creation. But if it's before the creation, so that's not good. Before the creation, there was godliness and God didn't want that. He wanted there to be a world. What's good about before the creation? Before the creation, there's no creation, right? Says the Rebbe, no. That's wrong. God put us in this world so that we'll reveal the godliness before the creation and the creation. Or in simple English, the reason for creation. Before God created the world, he had a reason. Then he created the world, and this reason became a little bit concealed. The Or Hashayach La'olamos, this world, which is when God was creating the worlds, even the world which comes before the Tzimtzum, right before God started creating the worlds, this is a type of light of God, we want to call it the will of God, which could be articulated. It could be concealed. Tzimtzum means concealing. This is a type of godliness which can be sort of confused. Loch, and therefore, that's why Adam sinned with the eating from the tree. Loch, and therefore, Amshacha, the Bechinas call in Gan Eden, therefore, this level of call, which is everything we said is revealed in heaven, even though Shamshach is complete, like we said before in the Mimor, that call means everything. Call means everything. This aspect of call, this is revealed in heaven. Everything. But still, it's not really everything. Kivan Shamshachim or Mugbal, since that it comes from a limited light of God, which is called Mochin, the Chachma Bin and Dat, which we said that's what's revealed in heaven, awareness of God. Therefore, it could be limited and stopped. This is not true completion. And miti ta'in the kaimasiyah the shlemusa, the true idea of the moon is full, is by means of avoda Torah v'mitzvahs, by means of doing service in Torah and the commandments. Al yadei, by means of this, there's drawn down a light which is unlimited, above any light which is connected to the worlds, Torah and the commandments. The Torah was before the world. Then there is no tzimtzum, melech l'sad ne'avad. That's really the idea of the king working on the field, doing Torah and the commandments. This is something a little bit higher than what we said about being in this world and thinking about God. This is talking about changing the world. Let's see. Let's look. It explains in the Mimor, the Sada that blessed God, that it says this idea of the field. The field that blessed God. The field, that's talking about Yitzchak. The Sada that blessed God. Shnei Pirushin. There are two explanations. This, it says that Yitzchak, when Yaakov came in to get the blessing, he said, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that God blessed. Rashi says that this idea of this field is like we said. This idea of the field is heaven. And the earth, we said, is the world. Right? It's the field and the earth. But the Targum Yonasan says that this idea of the field, this is the Beit HaMikdash. This idea of the field, which we said before was heaven, this is the Holy Temple. The Holy Temple, and it's explained in a lot of places that the Holy Temple was like heaven. The Holy Temple was like heaven. Therefore, it says like the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, anyone else that went into the Holy of Holies would die. He would really get heaven, go to heaven. Not even a view. The holy priest would go in there once a year, only on Yom Kippur, because there was a mitzvah to go in. And the power of this mitzvah, he could go in. But generally speaking, the Holy Temple generally was like heaven, heaven on earth. Revelation of God in this world. Just like in heaven, there's two levels. Gan Eden on its own. Heaven, the way that God made it. Like, for instance, Adam, when he was created, it says God put him into heaven. There was heaven on earth, Gan Eden. That's where Adam lived for the first couple of hours until he sinned. Heaven on its own, that's called heaven. Just like the Holy Temple. You build a Holy Temple, it's holy. But there's also Tosefet, or there's also an additional light which is drawn into heaven and also in the Holy Temple by means of avodah. In the Holy Temple, there were two things. First of all, there were the tablets. The tablets were the essence of God. The same revelation that was on Mount Sinai was in the Holy of Holies. That's why the tablets that were given on Sinai were in the Holy of Holies. The revelation of God, what could you want more than that? He says, well, there is something more than that. There was the outer altar. And on the outer altar, which was not in the Holy of Holies, and it wasn't even in the Holy. True, it was in the place where only the Kohanim could go. But the idea of the altar was serving God, doing things for God, making the sacrifices for God, doing commandments. Similarly in the Beit HaMikdash, the Nosef al-Gilad, in addition to the fact that in the Holy Temple, that's like the level of the Sadeh, the field. It's holy on its own. Hari Aliyah de Avoda, but by means of the service in the Holy Temple, namely the service of the sacrifices, He'ir bo, there shined Gilui Nalayoter, a higher revelation. Oh, so now we're talking about the moon being full. That's like it is in Gan Eden. That's like it is in the Holy Temple. But as soon as you start to work in Gan Eden, like we said before, or work in the Holy Temple, then that really makes the moon full also down here. That's called the work of the Holy Temple. That's why it's so terrible that there's no Holy Temple. We can't do the work. Alpi, I mean, we can do Torah and we can do the commandments, but it's nothing like it wasn't. Alpi, according to what it says in the Mimor, that this whole idea of the moon being full, this is mainly by means of our work in the field. Melech l'sada ne'avad. The king works in the field. So now we can understand, so it is also in the Beit HaMikdash. And this whole, what are we talking about now? Tu B'Av. We're talking about the destruction of the temple. The whole holiday of Tisha B'Av and Tu B'Av is talking about the temple. And this is relevant to the temple. Sha'in and the Kaimashseo B'Shlimusa. This whole idea of that the moon is full, this was in the holy temple because of what? On its own, the temple on its own is a holy place. Hein hamakom, the Beis HaMikdash, namely the place of the holy temple, was a holy place. This is not a normal place. It says that's where Yaakov saw the ladder. Moshe saw the burning bush, right? No, I'm sorry. That's not so. Moses saw the burning bushes on Mount Sinai. This is not a normal place. That's actually what Yaakov said, but okay. That was the place where Yaakov, where he saw the ladder. The Cain also was a man. There's some opinions say that the foot of the ladder was in the holy temple. And that's where the Cain also was a man, the Binyan Beit HaMikdash, the building of the Beit HaMikdash, which was built by means of King Solomon. The King Solomon was the 15th generation from Abraham. This was like heaven on earth. It was a holy place. Sha'az Kaimer saying it was the Mishnah Musa. It says that the moon was full. What does it mean the moon was full? God was revealed in the world. This is before they started to work in the Beis HaMikdash, just the fact that it was built. This is something like the revelation of godliness in Gan Eden, in heaven, on its own. Like it wasn't the beginning of the world. The world was Gan Eden before Adam started to work. That's the level of Sada. But says the Rebbe, but nevertheless, if so, why did God make the world? He could have just left godliness up in the upper worlds. He made the world and he put, even though the world was perfect and it was full, but he put man in here in order to improve it. Iker Kaima, the main thing of the moon being full, that wasn't the Beis HaMikdash by means of the work in the Beis HaMikdash, the service in the temple. By means of this Nimshach Bo, there was drawn an extra light. So it was complete, but now it was even more complete. And we're going to learn even a higher level of completion in a moment. You'll see tomorrow. This is a light which is above the whole creation. This is Melech L'Sada Ne'avad. That's the idea of the king working on the field, namely the king, the Jewish people working in the holy temple. That also reveals the king, which we said is the level of Keter in this physical world, as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. We'll go over this a little bit, but
it sounds like this manifestation of holiness was much more in the first temple this shining of light. It was much more in the first temple. It doesn't sound like you're describing the second temple.
The second temple was greater because it was more in the world. It lasted 10 years longer, and it was a bigger building.
But but you saw these revelations in the inner courtyard of the. You saw in the Holy Holies. You had
right. The second temple. There were yes.
Tablets of testimony. You had the altar that really functioned with a fire coming from above, meaning a fire from below. You didn't have this in the second temple.
Right. Definitely there were lacking things in the second temple, but the idea of the second temple was more coming from us. The first temple was more coming from Hashem. The first temple was everybody was like tzaddikim. Everything was revealed, revelations from above. In the second temple, God took away things, but we had to do the service more from below. And in a way that's more valuable to Hashem.
But he walked around much more in the first temple.
I want to just take a couple 3-minute break. I just have to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
3-minute break, and we'll continue this conversation. And then this temple and the second temple. Listen, the first temple. So I'll put this over here. Yeah. The first temple was revealed godliness. You're right. It was a higher level. It says in the Tanya also that it was a higher level of revealed godliness. But it demanded, in a way, less from the people. I was just reading about this when the Jews came back from exile from Babylon. So they were given permission from, what was it, King Koresh gave them permission to come up. So most of the Jews didn't want to have anything to do with it. There was like 40,000, something like that, Jews came up. And they built the Holy Temple, and there was tremendous intermarriage, and the Jews were like totally, not enthusiastic about the whole thing.
These were the people also who lived during the time of the Purim story, aren't they?
Right.
Okay.
Yes. And so it wasn't so much of a wonder that they all ate from the meal of Achashverosh and etc. And then about a year after the temple was already built, that's when Ezra Sofer, he came up. Ezra didn't want to leave his teacher. His teacher was Baruch or Ben Neriah, so he didn't want to leave him. So he stayed in Babylon with him. As soon as he passed away, so he came. I guess Baruch couldn't make the journey, so he came. He saw the situation was terrible. The Jewish people had intermarried and everything, and he forced them all to get rid of their wives. And then came also Nehemiah. Came, and they had to inspire and get the Jews more enthusiastic and motivated for the Holy Temple. So the second temple was already, coming from below. It was, defying nature. And it wasn't an easy thing. It wasn't easy for them to really get enthusiastic about, being Jewish and getting over the trauma of the destruction of the first temple. But they did. And the second temple stood for longer, and it was even bigger. It says that it was a beautiful building. Improved it, and the Goyim agreed, and etc. Until finally the Romans came and they destroyed it. All right, that's what we're mourning now. But the second temple gives us the example that it's possible to make a comeback. In the first temple, there was no comeback. In the first temple, it was just, came along King Solomon. He was so holy, and the Jewish people, the whole world was like totally impressed, knocked out by King Solomon. But the second temple was like all the opposite. They had to come from below, from degradation and the depression and shame. The Jewish people had been thought that God left them, and they left God. So that was the advantage of the second temple. That was the advantage of the second temple. It says the third temple is going to have both. We learned that Sikha. Remember, we learned that Sikha about seeing the third temple on on Shabbos Chazon that we said that there's going to be both. It's going to be both a temple that's going to come from above, like the first temple, and it's going to come from below, like the second temple, by our means of our work. So we have to put an effort into it, and also God will put his effort into it, but together there's going to be something that's going to be, like we learned in the Mimor, eternal. Listen, if you think about it, the second temple, according to Kabbalah, also it says in the, like I said, and there's a Tosfos, couple of them, says that the third temple is already made. It's already up in heaven, and it's been sitting there for like 2,000 years in heaven. I mean, that's a pretty massive building to be sitting up in heaven, and no one's seen it. Well, you ever see it? The astronauts saw it. I mean, now I understand they have these sightings of UFOs. That the Army is starting to admit that they saw UFOs, and the Air Force, they have pictures that they've been trying to keep secret, and there's people of this and this. Okay, it exists, it doesn't exist, who knows? But
that's so strange that the temple still exists below. It's somewhere hidden up there. This is the heart of the temple. The Holy Holies was put away in storage. It's a hiding place.
Not the Holy Holies, the
Ark.
The Ark, right.
Yeah.
That's a different story. That it's hidden down in deep places where you can't find it. Who knows where it is? Okay. I mean, there are other things like that. But we're talking about the Holy Temple. The Holy Temple is this massive building. It must be millions of tons. And it's somehow or other in heaven, and it's really there. And nobody's perceived it. It's not a thing that we can perceive with our eyes. It's because our eyes are made of stuff that's not really real. Our eyes are made of stuff that's prone to death and concealment, and we don't see God. We don't see anything. What do we see? We see a sunset. We look at the world, we see only ourselves. Right? We don't see God.
Maybe it's like the Holy of Holies. It's there, but it's not there.
Right, that's right. Exactly right.
Also, I was thinking, could we say that the first temple was like Abraham, pure mercy? Because you were describing that it was so much of Hashem without anything from us. The second temple is like Yitzchak, and the third temple will be like Yaakov.
Yeah, we did that. That was in the Maamar Eicha. Remember? In the Maamar Eicha, it said that it's a Badad. We said is Betach Badad Ein Yaakov, specifically Yaakov. Remember, went through the whole thing. The Yaakov is the third, and because of that, he contains both opposites. And yes, of course, that's right. Right.
Sometimes I'm slow and it comes together later.
That's good. Good. At least it comes together. It says, what is it? And we learned in Pirkei Avos, the midos belomdei Torah. Some people, it's easy to learn and easy to forget. It says, and that's not good. And some people, they said it's hard for them to learn, but it's hard for them to forget. This is good. Isn't that right? It's good. It's yotze efseido b'scharo. It says that his lack is made up for, compensated by his advantage. Oh, let's go. Come on.